Good morning. I'm Sheri Braithwaite with Dating Olympics. I'm going to talk today with my older sister, Denise Druce. She will jump on when she is able, but right now I just wanted to come on here for a few minutes before she comes on. But to tell you a little bit of background, the reason why I chose her is because I am working on recognizing the insecurities that I have and all of the things that are stopping me to have what it is I want to have in my life. And that working with coaches does that for you. They help you to see what is in your way. And I just had a coach ask me last week, when was the first time you remember in your life this happening when you experienced the same fear of failure? Um, and I couldn't remember anything specific, but I told him that I can tell you this. Anytime I have the fear of failure or the fear of rejection or fear of not being good enough, any amount of insecurity, if I'm afraid that I'm gonna look like a dork, if I feel like I look like a dork, if I feel like the outfit that I'm wearing is not helping me to feel most confident, if I am afraid of saying the wrong thing, if I said the wrong thing or thought I just am I in any way feeling insecure or of any kind of fear, maybe I think I might even be brave enough to say, bold enough to say any amount of shame that comes up for me, that feeling of I am not good enough. Who I am is not good enough. Not just what I just did was wrong or what I said was something I could learn from and not say it next time. It's not about learning and growing. It's when I'm in that place of I just am this way, not good enough in some way or another. That feeling of shame. When that comes up, I always think of my older sister, Denise. She's always in the back of my mind as more of a subliminal or subconscious thought. There's a connection. There's a 100% connection with all of my insecurities and fears. It's that connection of with her. And so I thought it would be so good for me to confront these feelings and to open this conversation up with her as well. It does affect our relationship because I hold back in a lot of ways because I'm afraid of what she will say of me or to me about what it is that I'm thinking anyway. Um, I have, oh, she's texting me. Let me get this real quick, see if that works for her. She wants to jump in. So I have, anyway, it's going to be interesting. Brene Brown tells us that in order to dissolve shame or to get out of it as a whole, you have to confront the shame, the things that cause shame. I have invited my sister, Denise Druce, to join this conversation. The reason why I chose her is because of the recommendation or the suggestion that Brene Brown gives us to confront our inadequacies or our insecurities. Well, shame is what she calls it. There's these feelings that we are not good enough. It's who we are as a whole. Our whole core self-image is shame that when we want to confront that, that's the only way that we're going to be able to dissolve those feelings and overcome them. And so I invited my sister, who's a great sport. She is so busy. Oh my gosh. When she told me, in fact, you told me today that you have a course coming up with 300 people. So we're going to talk a little bit about Denise, and then we'll go into more details about stories and define that. So first of all, welcome, Denise. Sorry, I get a quick introduction before I even introduced you. So tell us, I can tell you how much I know about what you do, but I would love for you to expand because I know there's so much more that you do that I am not aware of. I know that Denise is I call her, well, she's a public figure. I'm not just call her that. She has a lot of influence in social media and also with all of her former students. I would say thousands of students. I'm not sure that I think even more than that. tens of thousands. She teaches yoga, and she teaches people how to become yoga instructors. So she's an instructor of yoga. And she has a business where she allows them to, these yoga instructors, to certify to be an instructor and other things, yoga therapist. And she also owns a nonprofit organization that is Yoga Forward. I don't remember all these things. Yeah. And that is amazing too. She has that organization so that she can take yoga where it isn't. She takes it to prisons and to school. I'll let her tell you a little bit more about the stuff she does, and I'm gonna go from there.
Well, you kind of covered all of it. So first of all, I just want to say I'm happy to be here with you in this platform. And I'm super proud of you that you've come this far with your goals. You've been talking about doing this for a while. This has been a dream of yours. And it makes me really excited and happy to see you just really stepping into this. You know, it takes a lot of courage to start something like this and to pull together the people you have. So it's an honor to be here. And I just want to acknowledge you for what you've done so far to get us here. And then, yeah, you said everything. I'm super old, so I've been doing this for a long time. I just celebrated my 40-year anniversary of being a fitness instructor. So I would just add that on, is that really, you know, I got my start in the fitness world, and that evolved into yoga, which is what I've been doing for the last 20 years. And yeah, just training teachers. And one of the greatest joys of my life is taking yoga where it isn't, and giving yoga to people who are incarcerated, people who are homeless, people that live in marginalized communities. We just did a leadership camp for junior high kids. So it's just my greatest joy to put yoga and mindfulness in the hands of people that don't have access to it.
Yeah, and we both forgot to mention public speaking. She did a TED Talk speech a couple of years ago, probably 2 years ago, and is also starting to do that as well, public speaking. And she has some great things to share with people, public speaking. But you know, as you were talking, I was just thinking how of all of the people that know you, you're adored, you're admired, and people look up to you for how you make them feel too, how you have this gift of making people feel so loved, and you help people, they shine their potential. You see what they will become, and you coach it out of them. And so that's so ironic to me that of all people in my life, I would feel the most shame from. So that tells me, and this is the whole purpose of this call and the purpose of this discussion, the whole class today, is that it has nothing to do with what anyone else is saying to you or doing to you or around you or about you. It's all inside of you. Denise is very encouraging, and she's always just telling me she's my biggest support. She reached out to me just a few months ago when I told her I was starting this, and I was so excited, and she said, I will do anything to help you. Let me know what I can do. And so I said, actually, yeah, let's have you speak. I would love to have you.
Well, and you know, and you're making a really good point. I want to just disagree with a little bit of it, because first of all, this is obviously a really emotional and personal thing for you. And I love it, Sheri. I love that you're being vulnerable and you're sharing your feelings and thoughts around something that's very, you're still working through this, right? Obviously, and you're being really brave to bring in a person that brings some of that up for you. So, I just want to disagree with the one little piece when you said it has nothing to do with the other person, because it does have to do, in this case, with me and our relationship. But you know, I know what you're saying. It's not my fault, right? I didn't intentionally shame you, but I think it begs the question for all of us, like, we all have that big sister person in our life. And, you know, I'm just saying big sister, but like, it could be a parent, it could be a peer back in junior high, it could be an ex, you know, but there's someone in our life that brings up those feelings for us of less than. and you're giving it the name like Brene Brown does, shame. And so I asked you on the phone, we had this conversation, and I'll ask the audience, like, if you can figure out where that started, if you can figure out the moments and the conversations and the things that were said, then you have 100% power to just dismantle it and move on. But if you can't figure out where it came from, let's say it happened over decades, and that's probably our experience. I was the big sister. For the audience to know the short version of the story, at 8 years old, my mom put me in charge of my brother, who was then 4, and Sheri, who was then 2. And so I immediately turned into the bossy big sister. I actually had a kind of a power trip. I loved being in charge. And you might remember, I don't remember like being mean to you in any way, but I think I was definitely in charge, and I was definitely like bossy and maybe critical. I don't know. As a 8-year-old, what do you do? You know, and through those years, yeah. And so I think it's interesting that, like, if we can all flip back to who was the first person that made me feel like I was the little sister and I can't do it, I'm just going to do it for you, kind of thing. And I can remember, for me, I'm the oldest child, so my experiences are more social. I remember being 12 years old and a kid at my junior high saying, "Your feet are too big." And for the next few years, I shoved my 9.5 into size 8 shoes because I believed him. You know, I like took to heart what he said about me.
Yeah.
So I think it's helpful to roll back in time, like, where did that start, so that I can dismantle what I've made of that.
Yes, I love that. That would be worth going back into my memory more and figuring out specifically, if necessary. But I have, since we talked just last week, I have, I guess I've just figured out, I know, well, we have differences in personality for sure. There are, you're very organized. The oldest child, and if we were to talk to our mom, she talks about birth order and the traits that come with the birth order. The oldest child is organized and on top of her game and excellence minded, and the youngest is a little more maybe playful or laid back. And so some of those traits are in the ways that we are opposite. Sometimes I've compared myself and I felt like I'm not organized, and so I'm not good enough, or, you know, I've done it to myself a lot. But I also think it does have to do with, I mean, it's just normal that when you were 10 and I was 4 and you were saying, do it this way, like you said, then I'm sure that there was a lot of, I'm not doing it right. And so the moments when you were, I remember when I was in 6th grade and I wanted to play the viola, and I started learning it and I was excited about it. And the practices were probably horrendous for the family. And I remember you telling me, I don't know if you remember this, but you said, "You don't want to play the viola. You don't want to be a band geek." and so I was like, "Oh, I guess she's right," you know. But still, in my heart, I loved it. And all these years, I could have been playing the viola all this time, and it was my, you know. So that this little things that we do, we take to heart, and that is a good example of attaching our thoughts and our meaning and our feelings to the events that happen, instead of we do it young and it's innocent, but we can change that as we get older. So
yeah. And what else would you have thought at that age? Like, here's I was kind of shoved into being an authority figure in your life, and I really shouldn't have been. Right. Like, let's just face it, like, we should have had parents playing that role. And for a very myriad of reasons, our parents were doing other things. Right. And that's a different story for a different day. But I was kind of shoved into that role. Let's not ever expect a 12-year-old to parent well, you know, or 14 or whatever. So, but who can fault you for respecting that authority figure in your life and going, "Oh, they're probably right." And I love that now, and because it's not too late to pick up the viola now, Sheri, like, you could do that today if that's still a dream and a desire. That's one way to fight back against the shame that you've lived with for something that, I won't call it silly, but something that was unnecessary. It just, you were a small child when you arrived at that conclusion. and it's the only conclusion you could have. But now, you know, today's a new day. So
there are so many other things I can talk about, but that was the most important thing that I wanted to talk about, is to be able to figure out these things and confront them, and in a way that's not blaming the other person. There's no reason to blame you or our parents or anyone, but to come to terms with it, and then, if possible, confront with that person. I have been telling myself this story my whole life, and I'm letting it go, or not tell that person, just start doing it. But anyway, I appreciate you coming on, and I hope there's anything else that you would like to say about this subject, or if you have any tips about how to break through some of those the stories, you know, the emotional breakdowns and stuff that we have.
Yeah, no, I totally do. Because we've identified the problem.
Yeah.
And we've identified like a little suggestion of like, go back in time and dismantle it, but that's so nebulous. That's so hard to get to for so many of us. So I want to bring in another piece. You asked me how we teach this in yoga school, yoga teacher training, how we address shame and self-image. So I just want to talk about that for a second, if we still have time.
Yes.
Okay. So in yoga, in the philosophy of yoga, not the put your foot behind your head yoga, but the philosophy of yoga, the ultimate goal is helping us see that this little self that's sitting in the chair right now, that's wearing a pink shirt, that has blonde hair, that's 58 years old, that does this job, whatever, that's our little self. That's our human self. And you know, you might have heard the old quote, like, I'm a soul that's having a physical experience right now, having a human experience, right? So the little self is worried about numbers in a bank account, numbers on the scale, titles and accomplishments. The little self identifies as, oh, I'm the youngest, and they've told me that that means I should be like this, or I'm the oldest, and they've told me that I should be like this. I'm a female, so I'm supposed to be like this. I live in the West, so I'm supposed to act like this, right? If I drive this car, that will be better, right? So we have all these programming, all these messages that are given to us from the time we're tiny, and they're not messages that address our bigger self.
Yeah.
They keep us stuck in little self. So yoga comes along and yoga says, you're not any of that. That's not who you really are. Who you really are. And now we've got to get into really weird language of like, are we talking about a soul? Are we talking about spirit? Are we, you know, we're talking about the part of us that moves on when this body is done.
Yes.
And that part of us doesn't have an age. It doesn't drive a particular vehicle or have a specific job. This is my personal belief. I don't believe that has gender. I believe that gets an opportunity to experience life as many things. That's my personal belief system. But even if you believe this one life is it, you know that transcendence, that self, is not this.
Yeah.
So the more we can sit back up and go, wow, I am judging myself because I have wrinkles. I'm not these wrinkles. I'm not this weight.
Yeah.
I'm not this injury. I'm not that title or degree. That's not who I really am. Yeah. And when we look through those lenses, Sheri, I think we start to see each other through the lenses of bigger self, and we stop criticizing each other, and we stop trying to live up and compete and compare with each other, which is where all that shame comes from. I'm less than. There's somebody that you're greater than, right? That's all that the cosmetic industry, the fashion industry really wants us to stay stuck in that.
Yeah.
But yoga says, nope, step out of that. How would your big self act in this situation? No, go do that. Yeah.
I love that. And I love too, you brought up the point that when we're stepping outside of ourselves in that way, then we're able to connect with other people. People cannot connect with us when we are stuck in those whatever, focus on ourselves, focus on what we look like or how we're coming across. We're not able to be present with people.
Yeah, what does Brene Brown say? Vulnerability is the first thing we look for when connecting with another person. I don't want to go visit my friend's house that is perfectly spotless. Her car's clean, her clothing is pressed, her makeup is perfect. And I show up like this. I just did a workout and I've got dog footprints on my car seats. Like, I love when I walk into my friend's house and there are dishes in the sink. I'm like, whew, they're a real person. They're going to accept me.
I love to come to my house for that reason. Always fun.
Yeah.
That's funny that you say that. I had a dream. This is what switched in my mind. I was in my house and all of my family and friends were outside my house, and they were all everyone that I love, that I connect with, that I enjoy being with, and they were out there waiting. And I was in my house and my door was locked and my blinds were shut. I wasn't letting anyone in. And the thought that I had was, your perfectionism is keeping your family and friends outside. You're locking them out. So that was a visual image for me to see how this was affecting me. I don't know why I have to get teary about that, but it was
because that's profound.
Yeah, it was.
It's really profound. I think that's a really beautiful image for you to hold on to and remember, because I think it's really true. Our perfectionism keeps people out, and we think it draws people to us, but it really pushes people away. Like over COVID, I'm a fitness professional. Over COVID, I gained 12 pounds. I think people are so happy to see me with a little bit of weight on my body. I think it makes people feel so much better when we're a little less than like trying to be perfect all the time.
Yeah.
I just want to acknowledge you again, and I thank you for your courage for bringing up a topic that's tender for you, and probably was really hard to even, ask me to have a conversation about. I love that we can talk about it, and I love that we can share this story, and maybe it gives people some hope that relationships can be mended when there are differences. And what I want to leave you with, Sheri, is of all the years that you've been, I think, forced into a position where you've had to like live up to the older sibling pressure of, I don't know what it is, like good grades or success or whatever. I too, if I'm super honest, have to live up to your standard of, I wish I could be as like eternally happy as you are. Like, you've always had a smile on your face from the day you were born. You are an inherently happy human being. We called you sunshine when you were little because that's what you bring into rooms, always, even on your worst day. And I aspire to be that. I aspire to be more carefree. I aspire to be able to leave things behind and go and just be spontaneous. And there's not a fiber of my being that allows me to do that. And that's your nature. You're spontaneous and fun and playful. You play with kids, you play with adults. So remember that. And audience, remember that whatever you're judging yourself about or comparing yourself to, there's the other side of that coin where that person may very well be comparing themselves to you as well.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on and all your kind words. We need to get together. It's been a while.
Yeah, I know.
Keeping us apart. Anyway, well, thank you so much, Denise. And thank you all for listening, everyone. And have a wonderful day. Let us know if you need to reach out to Denise. I can hook you up with her. You can follow her. DeniseDruce.com is her website for more information about her classes and the things that she offers.
You're welcome to give out my email address, website, or my social.
Awesome. Okay, I'll do that.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Love you.
Okay, love you too.
Bye.
Bye.